What if a single missile strike could shake the global economy overnight? This week, that scenario came dangerously close to reality. A sudden Iranian attack has hit critical energy infrastructure in the Gulf, triggering fires, raising fears of a wider war, and sending shockwaves through global markets. Countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia are now on high alert, and behind the scenes, tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States are escalating faster than at any point in recent years. The big question is no longer if this conflict will spread, but how far it will go. To understand what's happening right now, we need to zoom out. The Middle East has always been one of the most strategically important regions in the world, not just politically, but economically. A massive portion of the world's oil and gas flows through this region. Any disruption here doesn't just affect local countries, it impacts fuel prices, supply chains, and economies worldwide. For months, tensions have been building between Iran and Israel, with the United States closely involved. But what we're seeing now marks a dangerous shift. This is no longer a shadow conflict, it's becoming direct. According to multiple reports, Iran launched missile attacks targeting energy infrastructure in the Gulf, including a major gas facility in Qatar. The strike reportedly caused a fire and visible damage at the site. While authorities in Qatar moved quickly to contain the situation, the message behind the attack was unmistakable. This wasn't just about damage, it was about signaling power. At the same time, other energy sites across the region, including in Saudi Arabia, were reportedly targeted or put at risk. Saudi officials have responded with strong language, warning that trust in regional stability has been shattered, and that phrase matters. Because in geopolitics, loss of trust often precedes escalation. So why target gas facilities? Because energy is the lifeline of the global economy. Qatar is one of the world's largest exporters of liquefied natural gas, LNG, which powers industries and homes across Europe and Asia. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, is the largest oil exporter on the planet. By striking these targets, Iran isn't just hitting infrastructure, it's hitting leverage. Even a small disruption can send energy prices soaring, trigger market panic, and pressure governments thousands of miles away. And here's the critical part. You don't need to destroy an entire facility to cause global consequences. Just the risk of instability is enough. This attack didn't happen in isolation. It's part of a rapidly escalating confrontation involving Iran, Israel, and the United States. In recent days, tensions have intensified following Israeli military actions linked to Iranian interests. Iran has responded with increasingly direct threats and now direct action. Meanwhile, the United States has been closely monitoring the situation, with political leaders warning that further escalation could trigger a broader regional conflict. And this is where things get complicated, because this isn't just a two-sided conflict. It's a network of alliances and rivalries. Iran and its regional allies, Israel and its military capabilities, Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and the United States, with a major military presence in the region. Any move by one side can quickly pull in the others. Saudi Arabia's reaction has been particularly significant. Officials have warned that the attacks signal a breakdown in regional security, and that continued aggression could force a stronger response. This matters because Saudi Arabia has historically tried to balance confrontation with caution, but attacks on energy infrastructure cross a red line. Other Gulf nations are also reassessing their security posture. Qatar, despite maintaining diplomatic channels with Iran in the past, now faces the reality of being directly targeted. And when energy facilities become targets, the stakes rise dramatically, because now every country in the region has to ask, are we next? The consequences of this situation extend far beyond the Middle East. Global markets are already reacting. Energy prices are under pressure. Investors are watching closely. Governments are preparing for possible disruptions in supply. If the conflict escalates further, we could see higher oil and gas prices, increased inflation worldwide, strain on supply chains, and economic ripple effects across multiple continents. Europe, in particular, is vulnerable due to its reliance on imported energy, especially LNG from countries like Qatar. And remember, the global economy is still recovering from previous shocks. Another major disruption could have serious consequences. So what happens next? There are a few possible scenarios. Scenario 1. Contained conflict. Diplomatic efforts succeed in preventing further attacks. Tensions remain high, but direct strikes stop. Scenario 2, continued tit-for-tat. Iran, Israel, and possibly others continue exchanging strikes, targeting infrastructure, military sites, and strategic assets. Scenario 3, full regional escalation. This is the worst-case scenario. Multiple countries become directly involved, leading to a broader war across the Middle East. Right now, the situation is sitting somewhere between scenario 2 and 3. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because escalation doesn't always happen in one big moment. It happens step by step. There's another layer to the story that's easy to miss. These attacks aren't just about military impact, they're about messaging. Iran is signaling that it has the capability to strike critical infrastructure across the region. It's demonstrating reach, and it's testing how far it can go without triggering a full-scale response. At the same time, countries like Saudi Arabia and the United States are signaling their own red lines. This is strategic communication carried out through action. Moments like this often become turning points, not because of one event, but because of what follows. History shows that conflicts in this region can escalate quickly, sometimes in ways that no one initially intended, and once escalation begins, it becomes much harder to control. That's why global leaders are watching this situation so closely, because the decisions made in the next few days could shape the trajectory of the entire region. There's another critical piece to this story that hasn't gotten enough attention: the South Pars gas field. This massive field, shared between Iran and Qatar, is one of the largest natural gas reserves in the world. It's the backbone of Qatar's LNG dominance and a crucial part of Iran's own energy strategy. Now, here's where things get complicated. Any escalation in this region doesn't just threaten one country's infrastructure, but it risks destabilizing a shared energy lifeline. Reports suggest that Israeli-linked strikes have also targeted areas connected to Iran's side of this field. If that's the case, then what we're seeing isn't just regional tension, it's pressure on one of the most important energy hubs on the planet. And if South Pars is seriously disrupted, the global consequences wouldn't just be temporary, they could be long-lasting. One of the biggest questions right now is, how did these strikes get through? Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar have invested billions in advanced air defense systems, including US-made Patriot missile batteries and other high-tech systems. And yet, attacks are still getting through. That doesn't necessarily mean these systems are failing entirely. But it does highlight a key reality of modern warfare: no defense system is perfect. Missiles, drones, and coordinated attacks can overwhelm even the most advanced defenses, especially if they come in waves or use unpredictable flight paths. And this creates a dangerous imbalance, because it means critical infrastructure like oil fields, refineries, and gas terminals remains vulnerable, even in heavily defended regions. Another layer to this conflict is something that isn't always visible: proxy forces. Iran has long been associated with a network of allied groups across the Middle East, from militias to armed organizations operating in different countries. Now, even if Iran directly launched these recent strikes, the broader strategy often involves multiple actors. This creates uncertainty, because when attacks happen, it's not always immediately clear who launched them, from where, and under whose direct control, and that ambiguity can delay responses or escalate them. Because if a country believes it's under attack by Iran, even indirectly, it may choose to respond directly against Iran itself, and that's how regional conflicts spiral. While military tensions are rising, diplomatic efforts are happening in the background. But right now, diplomacy is under serious strain. Countries in the region have spent years trying to stabilize relations, including attempts to reduce tensions between Gulf states and Iran. But attacks on energy infrastructure threaten to undo that progress, because diplomacy depends on one key factor: trust. And as Saudi Arabia has already signaled, that trust is rapidly eroding. At the same time, global powers like the United States are likely working behind the scenes to prevent further escalation. But here's the challenge: diplomacy moves slowly, missiles don't, and when events unfold this quickly, negotiations often struggle to keep up. Right now, the Middle East stands at a crossroads. A single strike has already shaken confidence, disrupted stability, and raised the risk of a wider conflict. The question is, will this remain a limited confrontation, or are we witnessing the early stages of something much bigger? As always, the world is watching, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into global events and geopolitical analysis. And let me know in the comments. Do you think this conflict will escalate further, or will diplomacy win this time?